Adam Sachs, good to see you again here in Houston. Just recently we were out in Southern Cal together.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back.
You were here at the conference last year, and I think it was could have been the last conference before the world sort of changed.
Was definitely the last conference before I think I actually flew back a day early from that one because the Biogen conference happened during this conference last year.
That's right. That was right in, I think, the Marriott, right on Long Wharf Pier.
It was fun though. It was great. It was I mean this is an amazing event, and it was a very good last conference. Last time seeing any of the people that I haven't seen at this point in over a year.
Yeah, and this conference is really interesting because it's not so much the manufacturers, it's the clinicians and the tip of the spear on the challenges and opportunities at a clinical level that are trying to be solved. And Vicarious has got a different approach, and you've got a little bit of a different perspective on where robotics should go. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, so I think there's been incredible progress in the field of robotics over the last 2-3 decades, but it's really been still pretty limited adoption. I mean, the reason all of us are here is because we all believe in the field, believe in the industry, believe in the things that have been done by others over the last 20, 30 years, and they're pretty incredible and offer incredible benefits to patients, to surgeons, and to hospitals. But they're starting to reach their limits, and those limits really come from the architecture of the system as well as the way the actuators themselves work. So I'll actually be giving a talk in a couple of hours about some of the hardware changes that we really believe are necessary for the future of robotics, and how that helps us achieve the long-standing vision of surgical robotics, which is about shrinking the surgeon down and putting them inside of the patient. It's actually titled the talk after the movie The Fantastic Voyage, which is actually the inspiration for us getting into this field. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
I remember it, but for our viewers that may be below 40 years old, right? We shrunk a capsule, right, and sent it into the body.
Exactly, with a team of doctors inside of it.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible vision and an incredible idea that I think has inspired many companies, many engineers, many clinicians. But at the same time, the multi-port technology that exists to date, as well as the single-port attempts to achieve this, have really been limited by the architecture of the platforms and the design of the robotic actuators themselves. So we really believe that there are more than software changes, but actually fundamental hardware actuator level changes that are necessary in order to really achieve for lack of a better term, the promise of surgical robotics.
And so when I think about that, you've got your two schools of thought in the current robotics platform. You've got the "we'll make it here," which is intuitive. Gary's done a nice job of that, and Scott and Pablo and team and Dave Scott back in the Verb days, we're going to make it from scratch. And certainly, Fred Moll on the Aura side of things, which is a little bit of a different robot, but from what I understand, they're also getting involved in a new platform. And then you've got the let's use a KUKA robot or an off-the-shelf robot, and it's all about the software. And so that sort of locks you into a predictable and limiting range of movement and ability to access. So as much as you can, what are some of the principles or characteristics of the Vicarious system that you might be able to paint a picture for us that might be quite different, whether it's the AR, the VR, the immersion, et cetera?
Yeah, so our system is based, it's actually based on our own actuator design. I think that there are, one of the interesting things and one of the constant principles of engineering and product development is to use whatever you can that already exists, right? There's already so many things in a surgical robotics platform that need to be developed from scratch. I really do, applaud anybody who's able to use a KUKA arm for their platform. That's incredible and a huge benefit. But that being said, we really believe that the actuators themselves are where a lot of the challenges come from. It's around what we call decoupled actuators. So legacy technologies and existing multi-port surgical robots are based on robotic actuators that have coupling, that have linking between the joints inside the robotic arm. And then they have to fix all of that coupling and software. But unfortunately, while they're able to do that and able to generate good motions, actually really good motions based on fixing that coupling and software, it still has this exponential buildup of force joint by joint as they go through the robotic arm. So that's why they're only able to have wrists on the end of a stick instead of 9 degrees of freedom, which is what we're providing, all through a single 15 millimeter, a 1.5 centimeter incision. So that's what it really comes down to, is complete replication of the surgeon's upper body, plus replication of their head, and coupling that to a VR imaging system that it has some AR as well as really it's a bit of an archaic word, but telepresence. It makes the surgeon feel not like they're peering into a microscope controlling a machine, but rather that they have been miniaturized and transported inside the patient through this one small incision.
You know, that's a workflow change, right? I just sat through this morning's sessions, and fantastic sessions that Pablo was down there. And for those that don't know Pablo, he was out of SRI and certainly Verb, and I would call him one of the godfathers of robotics. But what was really amazing is you think about all the clinicians, and we went from pure analog lap, then to surgical robotics, and now we're talking about a full immersion. What is that going to do to workflow? And the existing clinicians who have their way, is there a paradigm shift in training that occurs in that?
Also a very good question. So I think there's a few ways to look at this, right? There's workflow around existing surgical robots, and then there's workflow around laparoscopic surgery and workflow around open surgery. And all of those today are distinctly different. And I actually believe that fundamentally, that is one of the biggest reasons that there's been such limited adoption of surgical robots, because not only do they require changes in the workflow, but they add significant procedure time, typically add time in the setup, add 100+ procedures of training required, all around helping the surgeon define the motion, choose where to put incisions, avoid collisions inside the body, collisions outside of the body. And all of this has been overcome for the couple percent of surgeons and hospital teams that have chosen to get good at the systems. And when they do, the performance is brilliant. But there's still 90-something% of procedures performed with no robotics whatsoever, over half performed with open surgical techniques. So it was a long way of saying our approach has been to mimic the workflow of open surgery, to make port placement no longer a concern or a consideration for the tool, and rather let surgeons and patients choose it based on where they want that port. And then to have the robot operate the same way, it's again, to bring it back to that fantastic voyage, it's the idea that you can just sort of inject the surgeon in through whatever port they like, and then once they're inside, they're free to operate almost with an open surgical experience again.
This sounds fantastic to me too. It really does. I'm excited for it. What's our timing as far as being able to showcase this to the general public? If you can share where you are in regards to the FDA, what's that pathway look like? And what should we be looking for next from Vicarious?
So as far as what we can showcase, I think that there's actually a lot of videos on our website, and I would encourage people to go check them out. It's vicarioussurgical.com.
Because there is another Vicarious
there is a Vicarious Robotics as well. From a timeline perspective, we're a bit over 2 years at this point. Toward the end of 2023, we'll be filing for FDA clearance, and we've already had engagement with the FDA. They're really reasonable agency and very collaborative, especially over the last 5 years. So we've engaged with them and actually been awarded a breakthrough designation for our technology. So they've dug in, looked at the details of what we're doing, and believe that it will have life-saving and life-improving benefits where no technology has, due to the fundamentals of of what we're doing, and that comes with a number of benefits, including a really collaborative experience working with the FDA overall. So we're looking forward to that relationship. We're looking forward to our filing toward the end of 2023, and to be able to really achieve our vision of improving patient care.
It'll be exciting to watch Vicarious, and I obviously keep my eye on the market, especially in surgical robotics. It's really fascinating to watch somebody take inventory of where we are today and not get locked into that paradigm. And I'm not saying it's a bad paradigm, but it is a paradigm. And now to step beyond that courageously and say, wait, there is a better way. Let's not just continue to extend that line on the same direction. So bravo to you and the team.
Thank you. I'll say it's going to be about a decade from starting, from start to launch of our first product, and launch of our first product is nowhere near the end of it. I'm sure, as you know, there's a million things that don't make it into any first product launch, and we've already made a lot of those decisions, and I'll be really excited. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of the features publicly, but as excited as I am for our first product launch, I'm so much more excited for that second product coming a year or two afterwards.
You got to strike a line in the sand for the minimal viable product to come out first, right?
Yeah, we use the term minimum lovable product internally, and I think that's really that's what we try to target. It is viable, which is I think it's like a little bit
settling,
below,
right? Okay, minimal lovable product.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll reclaim that as an Adam Sachs term in the medtech industry.
Thanks. I certainly stole it from someone else, but.
Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate you spending the time with us.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Joe Mullings from the Surgical Disruptive Technology Summit in Houston, Texas. Be well.